Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Chris. I am the coordinator for campus mission, basically outreach to college and university students in the Church of the Nazarene. I'm also on staff with the University Fellowship to help do that thing. And today I wanted to introduce you all to a friend of mine, Andy Bolerjack, who's in Norman, Oklahoma, doing ministry with students over there on that campus. OU, they're famous for actually, tell us, Andy, have there been any interesting things you've learned about, OU as a campus? Any famous alumni you guys like to talk about or whatever?
Yeah, we really good at softball. Just won the softball World Series. They take that very seriously here.
Sweet.
They prefer football. It's a cult out here. Meteorology, that's the thing. I meet lots of students, and if they're from anywhere in the world, they want to come and study meteorology, and they come here.
I guess because of the storm chasing possibilities?
Yeah, we get some tornadoes occasionally, just between the months of March and August. And so that's one of the interesting things. I am in a small group where everybody's a meteorologist but me. And so it's really good for when bad weather hits. I can just text the group and be like, okay, am I really in trouble or am I going to be okay? And every time but two, they've been like, you're fine. And the other two, they're like, you should watch out. And I was like, you should be a little bit more scared than just watch out. But meteorology is a popular thing. And then the architecture is known as, was it Cherokee Gothic, I think is the name of it. And I came up with, like, I think Frank Lloyd Wright was on campus and just literally made up the name of it. So like our architecture is a little bit unique on campus. And so those are some of the kind of interesting things I've picked up on in the 6 years I've been here.
Yeah, cool. Well, tell us a little bit about your history. How long have you been there at OU, and kind of where'd you come from ministry-wise and school-wise, and I guess also like what led you to engage in campus ministry at OU?
Yeah, I officially accepted the position of the director in about August of 2015. But I was working at Mount Vernon Nazarene University in the School of Theology and Philosophy.
Go Cougars!
And although it's now Department of Christian Ministry, I believe is what it's called now.
Yeah.
And I told my boss, and I said, look, I'm not going to leave right away. I had like 8 hats I was wearing, and I felt like I owed her and the school time to train my successor. And so I stayed on until November. And so November 1st of 2015 was my first day here. And I showed up, and I had been a part of the Student Center as a child. My dad was a pastor in Tulsa, and at the time, the Student Center would give away football tickets. And so I have some very early memories of going to football games because of the Student Center. And so I showed up thinking, hey, I know what this looks like. And we had like one student. And so like that was a surprise. So I'm finishing up my 6th year. And before that, I worked in the School of Theology and Philosophy and was going through seminary and got a couple degrees that way. And I've just worked with college students. It wasn't really intentional. When I finished undergrad, I did my first master's, and Dr. Bruce Peterson stopped by and said, hey, come work for me. And I was like, that's way better than the campus dish room. And so I started working with him. And a year later, Dr. Deanie Sorrell said, hey, you want to go full time? And I said, yeah. So since 2011, I've been working with college students of all kinds, just in kind of this way I backed into it. I love it so much.
Yeah, awesome. So you've been there in Norman since 2015. You got there during football season. That was nice.
Yeah, I showed up. I thought I knew what I was doing because, I left Ohio, came down to a football game, and it was OU TCU, but it was in like the 40s and it was windy. And so my legs went numb watching the game, and I didn't know where I'd parked on campus because it's oriented completely different. And I asked the wrong person. And so they pointed me in literally the exact opposite direction. So I walked like 6 blocks until I was in a part of campus I'd never been to. And I asked someone no, you're like a mile and a half the other direction. So my introduction to campus was definitely trying to learn which way is north-south. That made a huge difference in my day-to-day life.
A little rough. Yeah, cool. And so I know a little bit. I was friends with the previous director there, David, who ran back in that day. It was called the 2-8 House, a real kind of hospitality oriented ministry to campus. But I know you guys have sold that property and kind of redesigned the way you're approaching ministry there at OU. Tell me a little bit about how that's taken shape. What is day to day? I know it's summer right now, so totally different, but in terms of day-to-day ministry in the fall or spring semesters, how does ministry kind of look for you guys?
Yeah. I we were able to relaunch the ministry with the sale of the property, so I only went into that building once, and it was cool to see. And every once in a while, I will drive past it and kind of stop and look at it and go like, man, I wonder what we could do with that nowadays. But then I look at real estate prices and I go, no, thank you. And so we started kind of just meeting students where they are. We are a registered student organization at OU, which means we're allowed to table, means we're allowed to kind of be on campus. We can rent a room. We can do some of those things that some other ministries may not be able to. And so with that, we started just meeting students on campus, and at Dale Hall is our really big science building. So we started having a Bible study at Dale Hall. And then I focus a lot on coffee and lunches. I know coffee is your thing. I don't prefer coffee, which is funny because I take kids to it all the time, but they love it. And so we have a Starbucks across the street from campus. And so I will meet them there, or we focus on meals. And so when COVID hit, I remember sitting with some of my seniors. They said, we're going to go spring break, but we'll be back after a 2-week quarantine. And I never saw them again. And so I began to realize that I should do more things that involve community building than just me buying them coffee. And so this past spring, I just said, hey, every Friday, I'm going to take everyone who shows up to lunch. If you can't show up because of class or whatever it is, that's fine. But I'm going to do it. I'm just going to start showing up. And it was awesome. It was cool to see students showing up early before even I showed up to the restaurant we had chosen for that week. And they had a table reserved and they were just hanging out and getting to know each other better. And so off of that, we were able to start doing more group activities, and they wanted to hang out with each other. They wanted to check and see how each other were doing. And so that's been something that COVID actually was beneficial for us, and not having a building was beneficial for us because it forced me to go, okay, what is around me that I can utilize in a safe and effective way and that students would be interested in? And so I would do 4 meals a week, one-on-one. And then Friday, I would do a meal with as many people as would show up. And out of that, we began to do once a month big group events. So we did foot golf. I don't know if you've ever heard of foot golf. It's, you use a soccer ball and a trash can on a golf course. And our students loved it. And we're going to do Top Golf in the fall. So some of those kind of activities. But we're trying to focus on building community with each other and checking on each other, and not just being you're tied into Andy somehow, but also finding new ways to impact your students. So just because you hang out with me, when you go back to your apartment or when you go into your classroom and you hear a need, like, let's see if we can address it. And trying to help students realize that they are the fingers on campus that can help affect those kind of changes. And so not having a building has really forced us to think of campus in more unique ways. And we're not the only one who don't do building ministry. InterVarsity doesn't have a building ministry. Chi Alpha doesn't have a building ministry. But they have institutional systems. And so it was easier for us to very quickly react to COVID, or very quickly react to, hey, we used to hang out with all opera singers. Now they're all mechanical engineers because all the opera kids graduated. And I don't know what's going on with mechanical engineers, but they're not screaming opera at me. So I am pumped that I'm working with engineers now. But yeah, not having a building, it can be a blessing. I wish I had one, but it's forced me to be more creative and to be more in the lives of my students.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I know we've had some of those challenges in Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, where I've been, going through that decision process. Do we need a building? Do we get a building? Do we just partner with somebody and share space or whatever? But I love how you guys have been innovative. I love the focus on hospitality and food and coffee. I often tell people, I mean, free food is almost a critical component of of campus ministry. Free if possible, but anyway, that's cool, man. I am so glad to hear good things that are going on at OU. And I would also point people to your website. That's OU NSC, the Oklahoma University Nazarene Student Center. I think that's what that stands for.
Yep.
OUNSC.org, right?
Yes.
So if people want to know more, they want to get your e-newsletter occasionally. If churches want to partner and people, become part of the financial, support for that would be awesome. I'm sure we'd love to find some Nazarenes and OU alum who want to partner up and be part of what you're doing, things like that. Awesome, man. Anything else you want to share with the fine folks?
Yeah, I mean, if I know this is kind of directed towards Nazarenes, I'll say if your kid isn't looking at going to a Nazarene school, I'm a product of Nazarene higher education, go if you can. If you don't, give a call to the pastor in the area that the kid's going to go to school at and say, hey, is there a campus ministry you know of? Is there someone that you trust? It may not be Nazarene, but if there is, give that pastor a call and say, hey, can you take him to lunch? I want to make sure that my daughter or my granddaughter or a niece or a nephew or even a close friend whose kid's going to go up to a school that they're not aware of, just having a name in your phone that says, hey, if things get bad, if something happens to the car, who can I call and trust it? I've tried to do that with my students, say like, look, this mechanic is honest, or I wouldn't live in that neighborhood if I were you, kind of a thing. So make sure that you're checking on your kids. Even if they're no longer in your church or in your area, and give the people in that area a heads up and say, hey, there's someone in your area you may want to take out to coffee. Worst case scenario, they want to hang out with you, but best case scenario, you get to spend 4 to 5 years of your life with someone who's becoming their own person. So definitely keep tabs on your college students.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're definitely, I know one of my roles and responsibilities is trying to build relationships with churches to come alongside students during the ministry years. So we're, just trying to help churches engage more and definitely be better stewards and follow up more with the students that they're sending out to various schools like OU.
Yeah.
And obviously, if anybody's watching this and a student going to OU, please reach out to Andy and let him know, and maybe he can, sign them up for one of those lunches. Andy, thanks so much for your time, man, and for the ministry there at OU. Blessings.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.